Yo, in this video, we're going to be talking about an upcoming release that I am very excited about. It's called Wayfinder. This is a game that I'm going to be covering on the channel and something that's going to be in addition to the other content that we do. If you're here for other content and you're worried that that's going away, don't worry because it'll still be here. But I am going to be covering Wayfinder moving forward as well. So let's talk about the game. What is Wayfinder? Well, it's a free-to-play character-based online action MMO set for early access on PlayStation 5 and PC in spring of 2023 with a full release in late 2023 for consoles and PC. The game will support full cross-platform play and is a totally new and original game being developed by Airship Syndicate. You'll get to choose from a variety of characters. Each character has their own unique playstyle and abilities, and they each harness their own power to defend against the enemies that are out to destroy their world. So you can fully customize your adventures in Wayfinder. This makes each adventure a unique experience, and players can explore dungeons, battle enemies, hunt beasts, and gather crafting materials for weapons, housing, augments, and more. Obtaining these are incredibly important to strengthening your character and pushing back the hostile force in the game called the Gloom. So the developers of Wayfinder are Airship Syndicate. These are the same guys that brought you Ruined King, Battle Chasers, and Darksiders Genesis. Every title they've released to date have great reviews on Steam and overall have been very well received and pretty popular games. So Airship Syndicate is in collaboration with Digital Extremes, who is the publisher of Wayfinder. Digital Extremes is the developer of the popular game Warframe. They're working very closely with Airship on Wayfinder and providing insight for the game's development. Digital Extremes brings years of experience and knowledge when it comes to creating a vast story-rich online world. So I think that's really going to play into the success of Wayfinder moving forward. So now let's talk about the story a little bit, the setting in which you're going to be playing the game in. So the precursors, who are kind of the bad guys, have slain the celestial architects, who were the gods who kind of created the world, and now the world is being consumed by the gloom. Reality is breaking down and a dark energy is spreading across the land, shrouding it in corruption and ultimately collapsing reality into chaos. Reavers and brigands fight over the ruins, and deep within the shadows, the precursors hunt the last of the gods. But for the survivors, you are their last hope, and this is where you come in as a Wayfinder. So the combat pacing is going to be similar to that of Darksiders games. It's described by the developers as being on a spectrum of Dark Souls to Monster Hunter to Devil May Cry. It's somewhere in the middle, they say. The gameplay is much closer to a third-person action game than a traditional MMO. So for example, there's not going to be any tab targeting or a hotbar. Because it's a character-based game, the characters all feel different to play once they're out in the world. All characters can equip all weapon types, further augmenting how you play. And if you prefer the slower methodical method that rewards good dodge timing and big crits, you can do that. And if you prefer a faster paced action game where you're dodging in and out of combat, you can do that too. Mixing and matching allows the gameplay to change and fundamentally feels like a different action game depending on your preferred play style. So now let's talk about the characters, or the Wayfinders themselves. So in Wayfinder, you're going to get to choose which character you play. Each character is fully voice acted with a storied past and share connections with others in the game. You will learn about each Wayfinder both inside and outside of the game, and you can switch between characters at will, and all of your progress will be saved. It's going to be encouraged that you play multiple Wayfinders in order to unlock account-wide bonuses and mastery points. You're going to be able to customize both the look of your character and how it plays, and players will be able to choose which weapon to use, which mods to apply, and what talents to augment your powers and abilities with. So if you've ever played Warframe, this system is going to be very much like that. You have a different frame that you play. Each frame feels a little bit different, and you can switch between them and then continue to level up your mastery in the game. Wayfinder is going to have a very similar system with its Wayfinders. So the characters are going to be available via crafting as well as outright purchases. There's not going to be any loot boxes or gacha to get characters, and there's also going to be a system in which Wayfinders can unlock additional power through what's called awakening. This is going to increase their max level, increasing their overall power, their echo capacity, echo slots, and equitable item level. This can only be done via crafting additional characters and cannot be bought. First, we have Wingrave. Wingrave is a Templar clad in spell-forged armor and sustained by his faith in the architects. He's a natural leader and a true champion, always ready to defend the innocent and to smite the forces of evil. Wingrave excels at close combat. He specializes in supporting allies, summoning shields of light, and healing his allies, even as he calls down divine judgment on his enemies. Wingrave is the least complex Wayfinder to play, making him an ideal choice for beginners, and Wingrave can be considered a support class. He can heal and shield himself and his allies, which will probably make him a great addition to any squad. Next, we have Silo. Silo is swift and precise. He makes every shot count. He's born into a family of smugglers, and he spent his life running under the radar and challenging tyrants. Now he's using those same skills to fight the gloom. Silo loves long odds and switches easily between melee and ranged combat. He is at his best when he embraces this versatility and has a host of tactical tools. He can distract foes with illusions, slow them with oil, or burn them with fire, potentially setting off deadly chain reactions. Silo is a pretty well-rounded Wayfinder and beginner-friendly according to the website, and his playstyle is not overly complex. He has damage over time abilities and crowd control options items all within his kit. Next, we have Nis. Nis is kin to the shadows and darkness, serves as her weapon and her cloak. She is one of the Deep Eldrin, an ancient people who now serve the malevolent precursors. When Nis and her clan challenged the precursors, her family was wiped out and Nis escaped into exile. Deadly and swift, Nis cares a little for humanity, but she has sworn to destroy the precursors, and the Seekers can help her take her revenge. Nis is an Eldrin shadow dancer and is at her best when she's in motion. She dances around her enemies, defending herself with a cloak of shadows and striking them down with spectral blades. You can think of Nis as like a traditional rogue archetype in an MMO. She's pretty complex to play, and she may take some time to master, but she is very mobile and heavily geared towards dealing damage. Next, we have Sinja. So before the gloom swallowed the warrior, Sinja was the greatest gladiator in the history of the Imperial arena. She is the last of her Iron Sisters, a league of warriors from the distant dominion of the Seven Winds, and she smites her enemies with both storm and still. Sinja loves to put on a show. She delights in close combat and can use her affinity for the storm to drag her enemies close or blast them across the battlefield in a burst of lightning. Sinja could be classified as more of a brawler / tank class. She can taunt enemies, buff allies, and has some crowd control options. She is fairly complex to play according to the Wayfinder website and may take some time to master. Next, we have Kairos. So if you're into mages, this is going to be the option for you. Arcane power flows through Kairos, and he can unleash this force to devastate his enemies. He's the last survivor of the Forgotten Civilization, a wizard who transformed his flesh into pure mystical energy. Though his people are long lost, he's sworn to keep the gloom from destroying the world that remains. While he prefers to avoid close combat, Kairos wields tremendous mystical power. He can scatter foes with blasts of raw energy, form arcane shields, and crush enemies with a massive shockwave. So again, Kairos is the mage Wayfinder you might be looking for. He is fairly simple to play and geared heavily towards dealing damage, and most of his abilities are geared towards AoE, or area of effect, which allow him to damage multiple enemies at a time. So now that you've had an overview of the Wayfinders, what exactly are you going to be doing in the game? So in Wayfinder, the world has been overtaken by the gloom, and as a Wayfinder, you're one of the very few powerful enough to push it back. So to cease the gloom's devastating spread, you'll be entering areas called lost zones on expeditions. Everything the gloom touches dissolves into chaos, and in turn, this means that no two adventures into the lost zone are the same. The world of Evanor offers endless exploration opportunities for players to make each session a unique and exciting adventure. So the foundation of gameplay focuses on character advancement through hunting specific enemies and gathering specialized crafting components to make you and your friends stronger. So Wayfinder consists of open world areas, dungeons within those areas, and then social spaces where a large number of players can gather. So in the open world areas, you're going to see other players running around and performing various tasks within the open world, like fighting monsters, completing quests, world bosses, discovering locations, participating in public events, and discovering the entrances to the lost zones. So the lost zones are the instanced dungeons in Wayfinder. They're procedurally generated to provide endless challenges, and players can utilize the Gloom Dagger to customize the experience for each expedition, which will dictate the enemies you encounter and the loot that you're going to find. So in towns or social hubs, you're going to be chatting with NPCs to pick up your quests and daily jobs. You're going to be crafting your weapons and gear there, and you're going to be customizing your apartment or your player housing. So the player housing in Wayfinder comes in the form of apartments, and they will be something that is more than just a social space. They're going to be very important to your core gameplay experience. They act as kind of a second paper doll of sorts where you can upgrade and augment your power. So one of the things that's a little bit disappointing for me for Wayfinder, one of the things that maybe they'll add on later in the future, I'm not sure, is PvP. So right now, Wayfinder is strictly a PvE game, but PvP has not yet been rolled out, but the primary focus at the moment is currently only on the PvE elements of the game. So the developers have stated that they are open to PvP in the future, but want to make sure it's implemented correctly and not just an afterthought if they decide to go that route. So you are going to be able to play the game solo. However, a lot of the game's more challenging content will require friends to help you. The group size in Wayfinder is set to 3, and this is due to several different factors. The developers wanted the readability to be easier since the game's camera is more akin to a third-person action game than a traditional MMO. So whenever you have more than 3, the abilities and attacks become very hard to read. Also, 3 players allow each person to have a very clear role in the group when adventuring with their friends. In the future, it's possible that the group size will be expanded for certain in-game content. Now let's talk about the beta sign up and the Wayfinder release date. So if you're interested in Wayfinder, you can sign up for the beta on their official website. I'll make sure to link that down in the description below. And the dates for early access have not been detailed as of yet, but here's all the dates we know so far. So back in 2022 in December, there was the very first Wayfinder test. It was only PC. Then in January, the second Wayfinder test rolled around. It was PlayStation 5 and PC. And then in early 2023, we're going to have another closed beta, PlayStation 5 and PC. So if you missed the first 2 tests, you can still go sign up and get in this one. It's early 2023, and as far as I know, this one hasn't happened yet, or either it is currently ongoing right now. And then in spring of 2023, we're we're getting early access. It's going to be coming to PlayStation and PC. And then in late 2023, we're going to be getting the full launch. It's going to be free to play on consoles and PC. So that's kind of a high level overview of Wayfinder. That's everything we know at the moment. In future videos, we go in a little bit more in depth into each Wayfinder and some of the other mechanics like the housing and how the weapons work, how the crafting works, all of those good things and everything we have found out so far. We are expected to get some more information about Wayfinder very soon, so I'll drop that here on the channel as soon as we know some of that information as well. But that'll do it for this one, boys and girls. This is a very exciting game for me. I'm looking forward to this one. I think it'll be very fun. It's being developed by Airship Syndicate, and Digital Extremes has a hand in this as well, so I think this game has potential to be a pretty massive game. One that I'm going to be playing on release. We'll see how it goes, and we'll be creating content for it. So if you're interested in Wayfinder, make sure to subscribe because I will be dropping more videos here. I'd greatly appreciate that. And of course, we stream every Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. CST over at twitch.tv/BDLG. We will be streaming and playing this game whenever it comes out. But that'll do it for this one, boys and girls. I greatly appreciate you guys being here. We'll see you in the next one.